The death toll from Christmas Day floods in the Philippines has now risen to 25. The floods have caused the evacuation of nearly 40.
Philippines is experiencing a climate crisis. It is currently the most tropical
Pati po sa mga lugar na hindi raw dati binabayo ng husto ng mga bagyo, matindi na rin ang mga
Bakas pa rin sa Leyte ang pinsala ng super bagyong Yolanda. At tila simula pa lang yan sa lalo pang paglakas ng mga bagyo na isinisisi sa nagbabagong klima.
Loss and damage refers to the consequences of climate change that go beyond the capacity of peoples and communities to adapt to. This usually result from slow onset events like desertification and also extreme events like cyclones, floods, among others. For indigenous peoples, loss and damage is an experience that they have been going through mainly because indigenous peoples live in very fragile ecosystems such as high mountains or low-lying areas. And so when loss and damage occurs, they are either forced to leave their ancestral territories, the cultures, lifeways, and identities that they have a link to territory are also undermined grossly, and they are forced to migrate in some cases. So loss and damage is the third pillar of climate action, next to adaptation and mitigation.
The Philippines is ranked 17th in the world as the most affected country from extreme weather events in the Global Climate Risk Index of 2021 and ranked 4th in the 2021 Long-Term Climate Risk Index. The Philippines has also exhibited increasing temperatures. As cited by World Bank groups, the mean temperature of the country has already increased by 0.68 degrees Celsius from 1951 to 2015. Increasingly by 0.1 degrees Celsius per decade, and temperatures in the Philippines will continue to increase about 1 to 2 degrees Celsius by the end of 21st century. Based on satellite observations taken from 1993 to 2015, the sea level has risen as much as 5 to 7 millimeters per year over the Philippine Sea. Such rate is approximately double the highest global average rate of 2.8 to 3.6 millimeters per year, which was observed between 1993 to 2010. This is expected to continue at almost the same rate by the mid-21st century. In average, 20 tropical cyclones cross the Philippine area of responsibility per year. In the past decade, it was observed that tropical cyclones entering the Philippines are more intense. Some notable and extreme typhoons hit the Philippines for the last decade.
Doon sa nangyari yung pagsalanta ni Bagyong Paeng sa area namin, Upi, Maguindanao, at doon sa mga karatig na area, 19 na nakasali doon ay mga relatives ko, at siyam doon yung namatay at 4 yung still missing hanggang ngayon. Hindi natagpuan yung mga katawan. Doon talaga ito, doon sa ground zero, yung sa may sitio Tinabon, Barangay Kusyong, Datuudin, Sinsuat, Maguindanao del Norte, na kung saan ay malapit ito doon sa coastal area. Na-declare namin na ground zero, yun talaga yung malaking ang napinsala, 27 no, yung namatay.
Yung affected na bahagi ng aming ancestral domain ay halos mga 75%, no? Doon sa more than 200,000 hectares na lupain ninuno ng katutubong Tuduray at Lambangian. Ang pinaka-apektado yung mga malalaking ilog dahil sa baha, and then syempre yung along the rivers, yung mga landslide. 300 houses talagang natabunan.
May ilang mga sityos na talagang nawas out dahil sa tama ng baha at landslide. Halos sa ating pagtatasa ay umabot ng 99% affected. Napakalaking porsyento ng ating community member ay umaasa sa pagsasaka, kung kaya't yung kanilang, dahil sa tama ng bagyo at landslide at baha ay talagang nasira yung kanilang mga kabuhayan dahil umaasa sila sa mga pananim. Isa na dito yung matagal ng pinapakinabangan yung mga nyug. Napakadami yung nadala sa baha at yung iba naman ay natabunan ng gumuhong lupa. Tayo ay isang gumagawa para sa komunidad. Isa tayo sa nagiging frontliner para doon sa nagbibigay ng pangunang tulong doon sa ating mga kapwa katutubo.
Yung ginawa namin, nag-single motor papunta sa area, no, yung iba sa amin, inorganize na namin yung team na talagang aakyat sa BARM government para maghingi no, ng tulong or kahit magpahiram lang naman ng mga sasakyan para doon isasakay yung mga injured, no, at pati na rin yung mga nai-recover na mga bangkay katawan. Dinadamayan mo sila doon sa nangyayari sa kanila, lalo na dahil kahit na kami nabiktima kami kasi nga 9 doon sa family yung nakasama at mayroon pa kaming hinahanap, pero hindi kami nag-focus doon sa 4 na hinahanap namin nakapamilya namin, kundi ang parang ang tinitignan namin yung pangkalahatang tulong na ibabahagi namin sa kanila kasi leader kami, leader doon sa community area. Patuloy kaming nagluluto, no, at ini-involve namin sila para lang at least sa pamamagitan nun parang maibsan yung kanilang nararamdaman, yung trauma na nag-iwan no, sa kanila. Doon namin nakukuha yung mga datos part doon sa pag-i-interview namin sa kanila dahil habang nagluluto kami, nagkukwento kami.
Siyempre yung local government unit through yung NDRR office, no, yun yung kaagad kumuha ng mga datos. Nagkaroon din kami ng cooperation, no, sa iba't ibang mga agency at local government unit. Pero ang medyo mahusay na sabihin natin yung relasyon namin doon sa mga non-state interventions, mga NGO. Agree-focusing kami, unang-una yung access to basic social services. No, siyempre kasama dyan, i-package namin yung formal na agricultural activities at saka ang sulagad, no, mga infrastructure at iba pa. Pangalawa pa rin yung parang access to justice, no.
Sa bahagi naman natin bilang kinatawan, bilang IPMR sa lungsod ng Puerto Princesa, isa sa mga naging gawain natin din ay yung pakikipag-ugnayan at isa sa mga naging programa natin ay yung pagtulong sa pagbibigay ng housing program sa ating mga kapatid na katutubo sa pamamagitan ng pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa Department of Energy at sa suporta ng Makati Central. Ito yung isa sa nagbigay ng suporta para magkaroon ng matugunan namin yung 72 household na totally na damage the time of typhoon ulit at sila ay nabigyan ng bagong tahanan.
Sana magkaroon ng rehabilitation programs ang ating gobyerno o iba pang mga ahensya ng institusyon na may kakayahan upang makatulong sa ating komunidad.
Kita namin yung kailangan yung kahandaan din ng community. Halimbawa, dapat may training doon ng disaster preparedness at saka response. Mitigation program. Dapat nandyan.
You have heard the responses of indigenous peoples to loss and damage. You can see that they are exerting the best efforts that they have to be able to deal with this. Indigenous peoples in the Philippines consists of 15% of the total population, which means 15 million or a little more. The responses and the impacts on indigenous peoples play a very significant role when we are talking about loss and damage. The indigenous peoples have pleaded that they need all the resources possible for them to be able to address loss and damage, while they will be able to use their own collective efforts, strengthen their values in collectively addressing loss and damage. This will not be enough considering the magnitude of the destructive impacts of loss and damage and the impacts on their ancestral territories as well as on their cultures and identities. Thus, the appeal is to ensure that the human rights-based approach to loss and damage is used, and to see who are the most vulnerable and to provide the adequate resources for them to be able to address loss and damage. Indigenous peoples' knowledge and practices will contribute significantly in dealing with loss and damage, but the support in terms of technologies, in terms of finance, in terms of infrastructure and social services that they badly need should also be provided by states and by other actors.
It is important to strengthen and integrate local and indigenous peoples' responses as crucial contributions to the collective responses to climate-related loss and damage experiences on the ground. While these community responses have been done voluntarily, community-based efforts should be supported with dedicated financial grants and appropriate technical assistance based on a rights-based approach to loss and damage solutions associated to the adverse effects of climate change. Community ownership, decision-making and planning, and capacity building should be built in, ensured, and integrated on the implementation of loss and damage support, especially at the subnational or local levels. This will enhance further cooperation among various sectors on loss and damage responses with the most vulnerable groups and communities. Climate-related loss and damage must be addressed with the full and effective participation of indigenous peoples and local communities towards a just transition and green economic recovery.